Hey guys, welcome back to another Six Sages Gaming video. Today we're going to be talking about the deck that I won the Pastimes shop qualifier with, or yellow, green, red dragons, and it secured me a flight and hotel trip to play at Nationals in November. So I want to take a quick note and say, if you guys haven't picked up on this game yet, and if you haven't looked at the prizing, it is honestly one of the best EV of all the games that have come out this year. So if you can, look into the game, see if there's a shop qualifier near you, and just go to it. It is insane prizing that they're putting out for this game. So I wanted to build this deck, and from those that know us from our Kaijudo days, there was Hutchinson, who was really big on dragons, so I wanted to qualify with a dragons deck for him. In Dragoborn, we noticed that there's a lot of strong ramp strategies, and there's a couple cards that you can get some shields back, so we really want to focus on a more mid-game to late-game kind of deck. What's really important to note here is that it does fall in that mid-range category, so it beats up on the aggro decks with things such as Zarko, but it can struggle a little bit against the very hard, it's called bug control or black splash control decks in the format. So you really have to know when you're just playing your Kingslayer Bees as attackers, when you're just slamming down a Fafnir to get in that 1 point of damage. It really rewards the player for knowing when to be the aggressor and when to play the more control game. So that's the overall theme of the deck, and let's get into it. So we talked about ramp cards off the bat, and one of the other reasons why I went with yellow over black, which a lot of people are doing, is both the fog combo, as I call them, or Darian and Tariel. So in ramp, we have Fleetwing Sprite and Growing Touch, cards that just help you accelerate, help you get to those 5 and 6 drops quicker. And the thing to note here is Growing Touch combos extremely well with Remus, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Long story short, one of the main combos that I love in the deck is Remus lets you get a barrier back, and Growing Touch lets you put a card on top. So often what I'll do in those more grindy matchups is wait until I can play that combo out. I'll break one of their forts with Remus, put a shield, put a Tariel on top during my main phase, and that way I know for a fact in one of my barriers I have a Tariel, so I can swing out without worrying about losing the game. And it doesn't happen as often as you'd like, but it certainly helps. In the same way of helping kind of delay the game or get you a shield back when you might not expect it is Darian. And it was a really annoying card to play against over the weekend, because he can attack, so you let one of your bigger guys, break the Drago shield, you let him get a point of damage, and then you just have to sacrifice him for his effect, so he doesn't have to be a blocker. So a great utility card in itself. And when your opponent is trying to think of exactly how many attacks they need so they can win the game, being able to Fort Blast a Darian can really mess up that plan. So if you're building a more mid-range or slow grindy kind of deck, I have to very strongly recommend running these 4 cards, and most likely in their playsets. I might cut back on 1 or 2 of the Darian and Tariels, but they were absolutely won me a couple games that I might not have should have won, in the match. Then we're going to be talking about our more anti-aggro strategies, and Kingslayer B is an absolute house against aggro decks. Honestly, I have to imagine that every green deck going forward will be playing 4 of these, or if maybe the green is just a splash, you wouldn't. But being able to set it for 2 as an ambush, prevent one of their attackers from blocking, and likely trading with what they had just attacked with, Kingslayer B really goes a distance in helping you recover from those games, and can just be good as an attacker. In the finals, I was able to play this on 3 as just a 3-2 aggressor, again going against a very controlling deck, and it won me the game because our opponent just couldn't answer the early aggression, and they didn't have red to kind of pick away our attackers either. Another great card against aggro is Raven, and this card I might cut going forward because I expected a lot more aggro than what we ended up seeing, or maybe what I ended up playing against. But what I liked about this card as well is it does allow us to kind of trade up. So maybe there'll be some games where we have to block with, say, a crossed Fafnir into Terrax, only dealing 8 damage when they're at 9. We then get to flip this and then kill their Terrax because it just deals 2 damage to all your opposing creatures, so it doesn't target. That helped us a little bit, and it's kind of cute when you can line it up that way, but ultimately it was nice, again, to play it as a 3-2 attacker like I did with Kingslayer B, but didn't do too much for me. Doomfire Avatar is absolutely one of my favorite cards in the deck, and I can't stress enough how strong Siphon really is. Not only does this card play as more as your controlling matchup where you can kill something with 3 endurance, but allows you to break a shield more often than not, or I guess 67% of the time. But being able to do 4 damage to a shield is more than enough. And we'll talk about that and a little bit more about the Siphon here in just a moment. And then Goblin Mate Avalanche. Again, another card that I really expected to see more aggro, but going forward, this should probably just be Earthcrack, which was in the sideboard, and we're not going to talk about the sideboard a lot today because it was very early on in the meta and it was just thrown together the night before. But if you have a lot more mid-range kind of matches in your local meta, absolutely swap out this card for 3 of Earthcrack. And then we mentioned Siphon, and Doomfire Avatar and Chromatic Disturbance hands down won me more games than it should have. Like, this combination is just so strong. I cannot imagine playing both red and green and not including copies of these cards. And when you think about all this, is that Chromatic Disturbance can also draw you a card off of it. Honestly, there was 4 or 5 games probably over the weekend that I was able to play Doomfire Avatar, switch my green dice rather from a 4, 5, or 6 to a 1, 2, or 3, play something out of my resource, draw the card, and then just win because of it. I really think this is a very interesting mechanic that Bushiroad is adding, and I cannot wait to see what other Siphon effects that they come out with in the future. But I do caution that this is going to be a very careful balancing point between positive effects off Siphon, in this case being able to kill one of your opponent's creatures, and then enabling your own stuff. Same thing with Replenish the Ranks. It lets you turn that, 1, draw 3 cards, which is extremely important in your mid-range and control matchups, to say a 1 or a 4 if you have Doomfire Avatar in your hand, to draw 3 cards instead. And sometimes that's just good enough and exactly what you need it to do. And again, keeping in mind, you're helping fix your dice to get those effects you want, and you're either removing one of your opponent's creatures or dealing the damage because you're breaking a shield and then attacking with it. Then we have our more kind of anti, tech cards. Remus is kind of in this interesting spot between, yes, it's anti-aggro, yes, it's also good in those mid-range and control-based matches, and then we have the anti-ambushes. But Remus, whenever it's blocked, you get to draw a card. So if it's even blocked by a Drago Shield, you get to draw a card. And sometimes just being able to ramp this out early, having a 6/6 on the board, it's extremely difficult to deal with. And then just picking their shields every single turn and drawing a card is just going to be enough to pull you so far ahead of your opponent that you don't really care that you spent your early turns maybe doing a double Fleetwing Sprite play. Then we have Mischievous Sprite and Eleanor. Both these cards really are about anti-ambushes and affecting those and trying to find the best way to get rid of them. And this is a much longer discussion than I'll get into, but sometimes you want to destroy them, sometimes you just want to turn them off for the turn. Maybe we'll do another video on that. But I think most people have been doing a 2-1, or a 2-2. I've been doing a 2-1, so excuse me, that Eleanor should be a 1 on this slide. But I think I want to still have 2 Mischievous Sprite going forward. Eleanor is great when you're trying to push those last points of damage and you want to turn off all ambushes for the turn, but sometimes you'll just want to be able to play around like that early EMP and be able to break it and not have to worry about it, or maybe an early Kingslayer B just to have the more aggressive play. So it's going to be interesting to see where those two come out in numbers. And then finally we have my favorite part of the deck, and also Doomfire Avatar does technically count as a dragon as well, but these are the king dragons, if you will. Izarko. This probably has to be the best double R in the set, and it came out of a trial deck. Now I might be biased because it won an event for me and it's been doing work. I think it was the Asia Open championships that a yellow, green, red dragons deck also just won. I'll be very shocked if it doesn't have 4 Izarko. Being able to pivot yourself where you can be a 3-for-1 against the aggro decks, or you can just be a 2-for-1 against many of the mid-range and control decks, and being able to switch one of your dice to 6, where in this case we can switch Replenish the Ranks to a 6 to draw 2 cards for free. He does so much for the deck, and the fact that he can also cross to be a 7/7 and then deal 7 damage to different creatures your opponent controls when he dies. Yeah, he is amazing. Then we have Fafnir, which this card was a little bit better than I expected, but it's still the fact that it deals 5 damage instead of 6. Once you start playing more, you don't realize how relevant that is until you get really frustrated that you can't deal 6 points of damage. But he deals 5, which is more than enough to kill an Eleanor, which is what he did for me all weekend. He gets +3 technically, +1 when you cross him, so he goes up to 8, which is also another great number to hit. And he's going to destroy a shield when he comes into play. So again, he's going to be this aggressive card that allows you to both control the board and deal your opponent a point of damage. Sunscale Dragon is one of the ones that people underrated the entire weekend against me. Again, being able to break a shield, draw a card, and attack again was amazing. He has 7 endurance, which again, anything above 6 in this game is really hard to deal with. And then that last effect that people always forget about. When this creature attacks, it must be blocked by the highest attack at the fort. So what you can do is cross him. He becomes a 5/8 attack. You tap down like they're 6/6 or whatever was going to kill one of your other guys that you were going to attack with, and then you can just attack with your little guys after that. So you get to keep your board, deal your opponent's damage, and Sunscale Dragon, you know, the vast majority of the time isn't going to die anyway. So what a just wonderful, wonderful card. And then lastly, Terrax. I don't really think much needs to be said about this card. An 8 for an 8/8, most of the time you're casting it on 6. When you cross him, he becomes a 9/9 that can't be chosen by spells or abilities. So the only good way to deal with him right now is Gluttony of Albert, and he breaks 2 barriers at once. And I think that there's a huge underrating that is, or undervaluing of double break that's going on right now, because it does help stop things like Tariel, where if it's in one of them, you just break both of them and win anyways. Yes, it's not as good against Darian, for example, but just being able to break 2 of those barriers at once with 1 attack has won me quite a few games. That I knew you're going to play this anyways. I'm sure no one out there is going to argue that Terrax, you know, it's not a bad card. It's great, but I think I'd like to see more people playing that card. So there you have it. That is the deck. That is what won the Pastimes Shop Qualifier. We're going to be trying to go to the New York Regional as well, and because we qualified for Nationals, we will be playing in the California Regional as well. We won't be playing this deck. I'll probably be playing, I have a really awesome yellow, blue, green list that I'm working on, so we'll see if we can take that. But if you were just starting off in Dragoborn and you want a deck that can play both the kind of control-y and knows when to be aggressive types of deck, I absolutely recommend this. It performed way better than I expected, and if you make some of the changes that I've, you know, commented on through the video and change up the sideboard, I absolutely can see this deck winning another Shop Qualifier and or Regional. So thank you very much for watching, guys. If you liked the video, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below if you want to see more deck spotlights like this, and of course always subscribe for more Dragoborn content. So thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you on the next 6 Sages Gaming video. Have a good one. This video made possible thanks to the Patreon support of viewers such as yourself. Thank you to our honorary sages.